Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today for Build Onchain. Build Onchain is a video series featuring builders and projects in Web3 with live demos of the products and tools they're building. Today we have Harish Raisinghani from Covalent, the unified gateway to blockchain data. Thanks so much for coming, Harish. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you ended up here, what you guys are cooking up these days?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Ashad, for having me and for inviting Covalent to take part. We've checked out some of the other videos in the Build Onchain series, and so we're always up for contributing to these types of educational pieces and engaging with developers to see what else they've got available to them to build on chain. It's obviously a very dynamic space, lots going on. For me personally, I've been at Covalent since, I'm going to date myself here, the fall of 2020, actually. Oh my God, it's almost 5 years.
There we go.
And really for me, it was, I've actually been in the crypto space, I think, since 2017, late 2017, and went through sort of a first startup that focused on data and APIs. And then with Covalent, what was interesting was really tackling this problem of messy on-chain data. Effectively, this data is technically available through, RPC nodes. You can run your own node. You can use a third-party service, but the data that you get from these nodes is quite messy, and the amount of effort to process it, plus all the stitching that you might have to do to actually get it into any sort of meaningful format. That was sort of at the root of what Covalent was trying to solve and is continuing to solve today. And so that was what gravitated me towards this space. I think also in the midst of just having come off DeFi summer in 2020, data isn't the most sexiest thing around. It probably never will be, but it's a fundamental thing that doesn't get old, whether it's a bear market or bull market or whatever market. The underlying infrastructure is always important. And so that's, again, an area that I know we've been heavily focused on at Covalent through whatever market cycle.
Nice. Yeah, the infrastructure stuff it's really important. People don't think about it too often. It's not sexy is like very common, like the word people use for it, but nothing happens without it. So thank you for doing the work. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I guess in line with a little bit with Eco, I know you're heavily focused on just these seamless experiences leveraging stable coins. And so you almost don't want the user to even know what's actually happening behind the scene. You just want it to work instantly and be able to leverage this super valuable tech that seamlessly leverages stable coins globally, right? So sort of the same idea. I think just a couple of things, maybe just to set the stage. So, Covalent is the organization, it's the underlying infrastructure, it's the data pipeline, it's the decentralized network that extracts blockchain data, the indexing, the refining. And then the way developers use this data, they use it through a toolkit under the Gold Rush namespace. So these are the data APIs that developers have come to use and love. So just wanted to provide that distinction in terms of how we've separated out the Covalent namespace with the Goldrush namespace. So as shown on the goldrush.dev, that's the website. Our focus, again, is on making it super simple for developers to leverage on-chain data. So if you're building, with data APIs right now, our key focus is on enabling data streaming. So you're seeing, these hyper fast chains coming out. We've got, base flash blocks. We got Monad, we got Mega ETH, we got Sonic, we got Near, of course, Solana. All of these are, presenting sub-second blocks. And so with this focus, we've built out two critical infrastructure pieces. One is this sub-second data coprocessor. So that's basically what's extracting this structured data, extracts and transforms the structured data from these fast chains. And then we've got a set of streaming APIs that allow you to leverage blockchain events as a WebSocket into your application. So this could be things like price feeds if you're building trading bots. So we have like OHLCV for tokens. We've got new DEX pairs as they get issued with liquidity, market cap details. We've even got wallet balances and transaction histories And so the idea is that, your UI shouldn't be, struggling because the API that you're using isn't able to keep up with the data coming from blockchains. So that's really where our focus has been. It's interesting to see other indexers in the space and where their focus is. And so our take is, if you aren't focused on streaming data, it probably will be obsolete in the near future. That's really where the future is headed.
Mm.
Maybe I'll just pause there, Nisha. I don't know if you have any questions or thoughts around that.
No, I'm good for now. I think you have a demo for us, all right? Let's just jump into it.
Yeah. So I think the easiest way to sort of talk through this is to look at our docs. So pretty easily laid out, broken out by what we call our foundational API. So this is sort of the bread and butter. If you're fetching, token balances, if you're fetching transaction histories for building activity feeds, even NFTs and RWA data, you can get that through the conventional mechanism of polling. It's a REST API, and you can get the structured data directly into your application. What we've done is we've added a couple of interfaces around these foundational APIs. So as a developer, you can of course use your programming language of choice. You can use your library for making HTTP requests and directly call these APIs. To make it even easier, we've done a couple things. We've created, obviously a client SDK. So everything is sort of built in natively within this TypeScript SDK, make it simple to do things like, leverage generators for pagination, be able to access all our services with authentication kind of behind the scenes. It's just a very smooth and seamless experience. So that's what we recommend.
Sweet.
We'll also talk about our Goldrush MCP server. So of course, being able to be in this space now and support agentic workflows, especially with LLMs. The idea here is that, there is now the ability to set up, either you can set up your the Goldrush MCP server on your own and run it locally, or you can even use an IDE like, Claude or Cursor or Windsurf, and actually set up the MCP server there, and then leverage the agent inside those IDEs to make on-chain calls. And I'll actually show you a quick demo of how to do that.
So you can like query chain data directly through your agent. That's the idea.
Yeah, exactly. Just leveraging the
Super
MCP
cool.
server. So let's actually just take a quick look at how we might do that. So again, the MCP server kind of serves as a wrapper around these foundational APIs. And then we've also got our streaming API for real-time event data. And so we'll show examples of both here. So what I'm going to do is just share my full screen. So I'm going to have the docs on the left, and I'm going to have the I'm using Cursor for this demo here. And so let's bring up the full screen. Okay, so I think that's coming up now. So just open up a new sort of window here for Cursor on the right. And I'm going to go back to the overview in the Goldrush docs down to our MCP server here. So for anything that you do with Goldrush, you need to have an API key, like with many other services. So it's free to get started with the Goldrush toolkit. And here are the configuration details for the various different tools. So we've got for Claude, we've got it for Cursor, Windsurf, we even have it for ChatGPT and others. So I'm just going to copy this configuration for Cursor. And in the right, what you're going to do is you're going to go to your Cursor settings, and you're going to go to Tools and Integrations. And what you're going to do is you're going to add a custom MCP server. And let me just copy out the config. I've just got it with a demo API key here. Okay. And so once you've done that, if you go back and you take a look, you'll see the Goldrush MCP getting set up here. And now there's 25 tools that are enabled. And so if you hit the drop down there, you can see the various tools that are available, which again, kind of serve as a wrapper around all the foundational APIs. And so what I can do is I see, if you go to the eco docs, you can see a list of all the stable coins that are supported across all the chains. I can tell the agent now, let's try this as the demo here. So I'll say, so take this list of stable coins across multiple chains and fetch me the top 5 token holders for each stable coin on, let's say, Ethereum and Base. And I'm going to pass it this document. Nice. And so what it should be able to do is it will now take a look at all the tools that are available here. And we've got one here for token holders. And so it should just be able to leverage that token holders tool and be able to list out. So there we go. So here it's calling out. And so you can see, I think it's using a set of parameters here that just need to get updated. But this is basically what I had just done before this call. And here was the output. So for Ethereum, got USDC, USDT, it's got the contract address, and it's got the individual wallets and the amount held as the top 5 token holders for each of those two.
That's super cool.
Yeah, pretty simple.
We were just doing something that like a couple of weeks ago where we had to basically accomplish the same thing, and it took a lot of like tab switching and downloading CSVs and stuff. This would have been a godsend at that point. Super, super cool.
Yeah, so now you have this amazing tool that your agent can leverage to basically fetch, on-chain data across the 100+ chains that we support, leveraging all these tools. So the intent was, make it easier for developers as they're building out these agentic workflows to be able to access on-chain data. And so this is, us integrating inside of Cursor, but you can actually host this MCP server yourself. And there's an open GitHub repo that's linked to from this docs page here. And yeah, you can actually just host it wherever you like. And that can be the go-to resource for your LLM or the LLMs that interact with your app.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's one example of how we're supporting, AI tools and agentic workflows as the space evolves and gets, for lack of a better word, gets crazier and crazier. Just how fast things are developing here. So what I was also able to do, and we actually just did this for a hackathon that we're participating in with Hyperliquid, and I was able to go into Cursor. And I'll just kind of show you, I kind of put a little write-up for the prompt that I gave Cursor. So I said I wanted to build a wallet activity tracker on this particular chain. I just gave it a set of requirements to use. And I saw that it had trouble doing some small things initially with handling being big in serialization. So there's a few iterations here that it went through, kind of gave it a sense of the types of routes to have and what errors to avoid. And it actually, so I'll bring up both the repo. Let's see where I have this here, right here. Okay, so this is it on the right, set up in Cursor. So this was the code base that it basically just built out. And then on the left here, is what the actual app looks like. And so what I'm able to do now is I can just go and pick from the scanner, I can just pick an address, pass that in here. And what it does is it gives you the portfolio value, tells you the transaction summary, it gives you the list of tokens that this particular wallet has. And it's a very simple, customized activity tracker That took me maybe about less than 5 minutes to have Cursor build out using the Goldrush APIs, but also just leveraging Next.js and some public libraries. So something that would have taken potentially days to build out and fine tune and tweak. Now you can use these AI IDs and tools to basically build out something in just a matter of minutes, which is super exciting. So
Amazing.
The idea of like UIs now is just like, they can be customized for basically any use case. And that's what we're really excited about, supporting developers who, don't need to focus about backend infrastructure, don't need to focus about having to scrape and sort and index and format on-chain data. They just need to focus on what is their sort of value add for what they're building for their user base. And having all these tools makes it now super simple for them to build out, whether it's a wallet feature, whether it's a transaction list, whether it's marketplace for RWAs or NFTs, whatever it is. Very simple now to build those interfaces and have it powered with on-chain data.
So one question I had. So like, there's like a list of tools that were in this MCP server when you added it. I think it was like 25 tools. So
Yes.
Is that something that like as a user you can add to, or is that like like a library that's growing? Is like I guess that's the question.
Yeah, our intent is to make this, as comprehensive as users want with the underlying infrastructure that we already have in place. So having, some of the streaming data supported here. We're also constantly expanding our on-chain data support. So whether it's new chains or new endpoints, the idea is that these all become tools. And then this type of MCP becomes the go-to way that you consume data, because it's mostly the LLMs that developers are working with that is consuming this data.
Sweet. And I also want to raise this. I didn't quite understand this before, but you can now, like, using this, fetch like cross-chain data, right? In one query, you can get data from multiple different chains, which is
absolutely.
Really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just tell the agent that you need it across these chains. And we actually have not only multi-chain tools, so fetching multi-chain transactions or balances, but the way our data set is structured, it's basically what's enabled us to scale, where effectively the schemas are identical across all chains. And all you're doing is just cycling through the chain that you want. And now you've got an LLM that can basically replicate doing that and then pull data in exactly the same format from every chain that they're requesting.
Super, super cool. Nice.
You can still see my screen okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. I'll start from this point here. So just going back to our, the Goldrush toolkit, we talked about the MCP server and how that serves as a wrapper around some of our core APIs. I had mentioned, we've got the streaming API. What this really unlocks are things like trading bots, games, AI agents. I also, again, just went into Cursor, kind of asked it to build out a simple display of flash blocks, base flash blocks coming through the socket and the corresponding balances. And so, here's an example of just this data stream coming through. So now we have the ability to have UIs that can keep up with the speed of the chain. And so that was actually the motivation for this campaign that we ran called Speed Run the Chain. And so the idea is that, you can build out these games that can basically stream transactions and make the experience, super smooth now that the infrastructure can basically keep up with your UI.
Yeah, I was gonna say, usually like the latency is like a big problem in trying to to get this kind of stuff going, but you guys seem to have solved that. Super awesome.
Yeah, it's been one area of focus, and I think I had mentioned we've kind of moved away from the conventional way of pulling on-chain data through this sort of REST and kind of retooling our underlying data stack and the set of APIs that we provide to really focus on this streaming use case, because that's essentially where this is headed. And
Mm-hmm.
if your UI is slow because of the underlying data API that you're using, you're going to check that out and use something that can keep up with your needs. So that's essentially where this is headed, especially in the realm of like trading and gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Latency, as you pointed out, is absolutely critical.
Yeah, it's just a lot. I mean, it seems like it's a lot easier to use streaming APIs than it would be to do the equivalent in polling. It's just not sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. And that way, as a subscriber to these streams, you don't have to keep asking, "Hey, is there anything different now that I need to update my UI with?" You just get that data, and it's immediately available to you. So, just the overall developer experience is improved as well.
Mm. So you
More
mentioned,
infrastructure to handle, but it's definitely a
yeah,
better experience. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off
no,
there.
you're totally
Yeah.
good. So you guys are using this for games and for trading. Are there any other like niche use cases you think are pretty interesting for like streaming APIs generally?
I think those are the front runners right now, and I mean you're kind of seeing this with the traction with the BonkBot and like a lot of these automated trading bots.
Mm-hmm.
You're also seeing it with like various token launch pads, and having a dashboard that can kind of summarize and give insight to what might be some copy trade strategies that you might want to leverage, or what might be the emerging token that's got this community that's rallied around it in short order. And yeah, the cycle for that hype might only be like a few minutes to an hour, but at least being able to have that insight to quickly jump on that train, get your return, and then move on to the next one. So I think that's kind of also what's playing out in this space with meme coin trading. And again, those are things that you can leverage the streaming API to do.
Mm-hmm. And then I think you'd also mentioned like there was some work being done with real world assets. Are you guys like working? Do you guys run oracles for that? Do you like stream live from oracles? How does that work?
Yeah, most of it is still just surfacing that core asset data. So we've got projects like Ondo that leverage our APIs. I would say it's still probably akin to NFTs to some degree, where it's just fetching on-chain asset data and having that available through a few different resources to be able to leverage in your UI. But we're kind of like also just seeing where that trend is going. Obviously, leveraging stable coins and having clarity in terms of token flow across chains as that becomes more ubiquitous is going to be a key thing we'll want to track and be able to serve up through our APIs.
For sure. I think you had also mentioned you guys are looking into like ZEEs, zero employee enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
What's the scoop there?
Yeah, I think that initially started as like, let's just sort of think, and this was actually back in late 2024, and we're just starting to see, we saw virtuals, we saw the rise of, agent driven trading in crypto. And I think sort of, taking this a little bit to the limit, we're like, well, what does this actually look like in terms of these toolkits basically being able to replace, what employees do? And so, this idea of what a future work environment might look like, where it's predominantly agents that are effectively running all the analytics, the trading, the core activity, and at the limit that would be something like a completely automated enterprise. Now, I think the way this is worded a little bit is to catch a bit of attention, but I think it sort of allows you to sort of use your imagination to think what this might play out to. And so in the spirit of this, there's actually a few different things that we're building out, a little bit of alpha there, where everything from taking the concept of a Bolt or some of these vibe coding platforms and plugging it in with the the tokenization mechanism that crypto has to bring. I know there are already a few projects doing that. That's one area that we're definitely looking at to tie in with our AI agent toolkits as a way for developers to build faster in this space.
Mm. Yeah, it's like, I mean, the AI like agent tools are really good in that like they have the agency. They can like take actions by themselves. But this is like really interesting, especially within crypto. It's like this first thing that I've seen that like gives them like a real information feed. So it's sort of like the eyes and ears equivalent.
For
of
sure.
what an employee would need.
For
So,
sure. I think with the completely automating the trading aspect, I think there's still an element of trust there that needs to be
for sure.
fleshed out. And of course, if you're using agents for building out contracts, there is a fairly detailed process that currently projects go through with audits and all sorts of checks and balances for the contract. Because once it's deployed, that's it, right? Like there's no really going back to that particular contract. And so would you trust an AI that built out a smart contract that maybe didn't have an audit with it? Maybe not, right? So I think there's still an element of having maybe some core Lego building blocks with these auditable contracts, and then being able to leverage the agent to build on top of it, so that there at least is some element of trust that, okay, I know that some of these contracts at sort of the foundation level are actually audited.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because like a lot of the things that are used. I mean, I guess I don't really know like what the auditors in this space like would use, but there's a lot of this generally where like audits these days are using AI tools. So it's like it's sort of like this whole like the snake eats itself Ouroboros kind of thing, but yeah, I mean, as long as people trust it, that's the important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll get there. I think the training on these is going to get obviously better and better. And, like with most other industries, these AI tools are going to do a better job than a human eye to detect bugs and issues in the underlying, contract or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. Super cool though. I hadn't considered zero employee enterprises. It's kind of like I mean, yeah, like you said, the term is kind of spooky, but
cool. Well, hopefully, just unlock you and I and others to do more creative things as the narrative goes. Let's hope that's actually the case. And you've got an army of agents doing all maybe the more rote work and still earning you some income.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned that you guys went to or you guys did a hackathon recently. Like, what are some of the? I think you mentioned like this. There's you had shown one project there. Are there any other like what's the most interesting thing I guess you've seen that was built with like your APIs?
Yeah, it's actually still ongoing. This is with Hyperliquid, so I think there's still a bit more time in that hackathon. I think as we've sort of seen a trend. So, I mean, what's interesting is Covalent actually came out of a hackathon back in, I think, 2018, when it was like an actual product that users could play with. So we've always had affinity to, what the spirit of these crypto hackathons embodies and the types of projects that come out. And obviously not everyone is going to be, a multi-million-dollar project or hundreds of million-dollar project, but, 1inch and others have actually come out of basically these types of events. So we're always very supportive of the crypto hackathons. I think what's, exciting is just seeing the way that these AI tools are now able to replicate a lot of the UIs that obviously now become effectively like commodities, but also just the depth and scale that they're able to do things in the spirit of open source and crypto, which is having these building blocks to work off of and then build more and more complex DeFi applications and other open source toolkits. So I think that's been the most promising, and it just gets better and better. We were part of like an agentic hackathon at the beginning of this year, and things were still pretty early and rudimentary. It's mostly chatbots that we were seeing and being able to just like prompt something and get an answer. But now it's like full flow workflows that are getting built out and completely automated trading. So it's exciting to see, how that's evolving, and the pace of that is just something that continues to astonish us.
I can imagine, yeah. So what is there anything kind of on the horizon for Covalent that you guys are working on? You guys are pushing out recently, or in the immediate future?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we're constantly looking at new and upcoming ecosystems. We'll index and support that through our Goldrush toolkit. I'd mentioned that we're sort of exploring this concept of like a vibe coding platform with a tokenization element to it. I think something that the audience can be tuned to hear more about in the coming weeks. And then I think it's really about pushing hard on the streaming service and the streaming APIs, and being able to factor in more and more things that we've currently done with the old traditional REST API polling mechanism, and bring that in to be supported through a streaming mechanism. So that's really what the next 3 to 6 months for us looks like, and we're focused on rebuilding our stack to essentially support these high throughput streaming activities.
Sweet. Cool. Well, yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to plug for Covalent?
Again, I think if you're a developer building in this space, definitely give the Goldrush developer toolkit a shot.
Cool. Well, thank you, Harish. This was really awesome. Excited to hear what people build with your streaming API. I really like the idea. And yeah, thanks again for being on Build Onchain. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for hosting both me and this podcast in general. I think again, more tools that are available and more resources for developers building in this ecosystem is best for everyone. It doesn't have the same sort of excitement as the AI space, but obviously as those two spaces sort of come together in some areas and some use cases, having the ability to share what you have to offer developers is pretty important. So again, appreciate you and the team inviting us to take part.
Hell yeah.
Let's go build something.
Let's go build something.
Yeah.